Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their EdTech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Amit. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show. Thank you so much for taking your time out for this.
Hi Jag, how are you? I'm so excited to be here and thank you so much for having me.
Great. It's my pleasure, Amit. So, Amit, I usually spend an hour just before the podcast, going through. Of course, when we send out an email, we kind of, go through the profile and stuff like that. But I was just going through your LinkedIn, and you graduated in 2006, and then you did your MBA. You graduated from your MBA in the year 2010 to 2012 or 2008 to 2010, something like that.
2010, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that there are two tracks going on in your life. One is your corporate job, and then you're being like a visiting faculty, or you're involved in teaching or something or the other to do with teaching. So how did that come about? I mean, was it the plan always, or
So definitely, something that I would like to kind of harp on since I'm given the platform here is I think one thing called versatility, which everybody listening, please hear me out. You gotta have it. It's a life skill and it's very good. Trust me. It's basically your safety net kind of a thing. So ever since I was in my classroom, I used to look up to teachers and I used to kind of understand and wonder that why that the kind of influence that a teacher wields. All right, so of course there were some awesome ones who really connected and they had like a massive fan following, and then there were the ones who couldn't connect as much, of course. All right, and so somewhere inside of my head I always wanted to be up there, standing up there, speaking, talking, and all of that. Of course, you tend to follow a typical academic path out here, that and I was always academically very inclined, so I've been raised in that kind of a scenario setup where you gotta score good marks, you gotta do a good degree, and you gotta your graduation, everything has to be taken care of. And following into that, engineering happened, and then I did take a break after engineering to kind of get my thing. What am I gonna be good at? And then, of course, I started working, got some corporate experience, and after that, I decided to pursue my full-time MBA. And of course, you once you do your MBA, you're back to the regular grind. That is a corporate job that all of us do, and that was in human resources. Now what I also did simultaneously, which when you look back on your younger self, and I would like to thank my younger self for doing that, was I kind of pursued my teaching on the side. So weekends I would just kind of make calls, literal cold calls, and ask people, hey, can I come and deliver something? Hey, can I come and teach something? And this is literally how it started. Nobody offered anything to me. I did not get something sitting at home. LinkedIn was not so happening back then. We had to
right?
network physically, and through calls, and visiting cards were in vogue. I'm talking of that time. And so that's pretty much how it all started very small, albeit where I was a full-time corporate working professional, rising through the ranks slowly. You join as a trainee, you then become an executive manager, senior manager. At the same time, teaching was happening, but on weekends. And finally, it just where you come to the fork in the road, and you're kind of left wondering, now what do I do? Because one thing and the other thing are kind of now becoming humongous, and you left with nothing else in life, and it is becoming all consuming. So that was the time I kind of decided to make the jump into full-time freelancing. And now I get to kind of enjoy both the worlds, where I can do my corporate or my HR, my human resources stuff, as well as, of course, I can pursue my passion of teaching. But yeah, I think I've always leaned towards teaching majorly, I guess, and training from forever, I guess. So
Interesting. I thought probably you transition into teaching full time, but then you said interestingly you transition into being a freelancer full time, so that you could do uh, as and when you liked whatever you liked. So how was it transitioning into freelance? Because there is so much conditioning that's happened when you work in a corporate job. You've got a monthly paycheck and stuff like that. How difficult or easy was it? What was your thought process to fully jump into freelancing?
I guess what you've just hit the nail on the head by voicing and sounding off one biggest fear of any freelancer is not receiving that paycheck at the end of the month, that not receiving that salary credit text message that all of us, well, kind of live for. That's what kind of makes a 30th or 31st so special. And yeah, you're absolutely right, because being a family man, where you have responsibilities, you have mouths to feed, this kind of thoughts came up when I suddenly decided that I would want to probably pursue things, in my own manner, where of course a full-time job wouldn't have given me that kind of luxury, and it would not be fair also either ways. And then of course there was my passion calling, where I wanted to kind of also branch out and see for myself whether I could do this or not. Now the story gets very, very interesting, because I decided to branch away or break away, or rather deep dive into this 6 months before COVID struck. So I kind of started on my own, got assignments, was finding my feet, and kind of figuring out life and stuff. But you got to understand, this is the time where offline was in vogue, right? So everything was being done in the classroom, or in the the coaching centers and in conference rooms, and it was all like that. Online was in its infancy stage, where we had not even thought about it for that much, and it was not gaining traction as well. And then
Right.
COVID hits, and that was the time, it was, I drew a blank. Okay. And I also was, so you get into the questioning mode, and the kind of, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? Because what it would have been to have a cushy job at that point of time, rather than making calls and kind of asking people that, hey, can I fill in for this? And once again, you work on billable hours. Who would want to pay that kind of thing? Because we were still not transitioning into the gig economy. People had still not heard of something like having such kind of people on their workforce. So from an HR viewpoint and standpoint, that was the time, thankfully. And this is again, with versatility, I would like to kind of give a big message out here, is adaptability. So I pivoted, and I decided, why not explore more markets in teaching? So I was always a part of the MBA market, where I was training and kind of mentoring and teaching the graduates, and the preparation for the MBA course and curriculum. I kind of decided to take a few steps back and check, because India being India, there is a lot of demand for good quality teachers in lower grades as well, in terms of teaching and delivering of content. And that's pretty much that. I just got a thought, acted on it, made a few calls. The main challenge is to get a step in the door, and then you can just kind of take it from there. And I guess there was no looking back from there, because then again it was a whole new story. 2 years of absolute roller coaster. I did have a lot of fun, because I got to see the birth of the EdTech industry. Not the birth, also. I'm sorry, I'll retract that. The rise of the EdTech industry in India, and then of course other things. So massive learning, worked with absolutely amazing companies, very smart and dynamic people, learned a lot. So my learning curve obviously became almost linear, as compared to the typical logarithmic curve that you have. And so that helped me a lot, definitely, in terms of transitioning from purely offline to purely online. And how is it then, the new challenges that come up? So that got very, very interesting. So definitely learned a lot, had a lot of fun.
Got it, Amit. And you were in the HR function when you were working in the corporate world, and then you were also teaching during the weekends, or maybe you were a visiting faculty. You said you transitioned full time into freelancing, but that freelancing largely became teaching, right?
Right, right.
Now, how did you now? And you still maintain to keep two tracks of your corporate skills and your teaching skills, which happens to be personal. How did you translate your corporate job into that of a training or a consultant sort of a model, Amit?
So what happened also was, this also kind of depends on you, how you kind of tend to shape your career. So I'll give you my example. When I started working, I started learning, and all of us do, where you're picking up things, you start working on very basic things, and then kind of so that's called tacit knowledge, where you kind of learn on the job, about the job, and you become smarter at it, and you become more efficient. Life took a big turn for me when 5 years into my career, I suddenly got a big chance to, kind of set up businesses. So now, as HR, very junior HR, I was very fortunate to kind of launch a brand new division or unit. So this gave me a huge exposure to the business side of things. I started working with the CEO, the CFO, putting together a team, sitting in board meetings where the strategies were thrown about and discussed. And then, of course, it would percolate down to what people would do, as in the people function would do, and kind of look at that. that helped a lot into honing my analytical skills and critical thinking skills, because I kind of got to know and understand that how everything is, either bottom line or top line driven. What do we do from the brand perspective? How is it that we keep our people happy? Kind of, what a CEO thinks like. And I had a whole new empathy suddenly for the business people, because if you observe, and this is kind of cliche, there's always this kind of thing of HR versus the non-HR, or where there's a misunderstanding where generally HR thinks that business doesn't get them, or vice versa, and of course they do have to work in tandem, and that helped me marry a lot or kind of bridge this gap. And I again got the chance to take this forward in my consecutive subsequent companies, where I started again, kind of deriving the people strategies from the business strategies, percolating them down, looking at the business plans, annual operating plans, and then kind of figuring out how can we do this. I started thinking a lot about risk, what could be potential risks, what, and then predicting that, the audit function. So these are some kind of corporate things that kind of came up, and I was still just manager human resources. I had not kind of made it very big. I had just had 6-7 years of experience. That was the time I decided to kind of move into teaching and coaching at B school campuses, business school campuses, because this was I thought a skill that was grossly lacking. We were not taught it so much during our MBA days. I did wish that we were, and I kind of wanted to bring that to the table, where you sitting in a classroom get the feel of what happens to be in corporate, the real challenges. What can you struggle at? Just googling the problem is not going to solve it. You got to have some commonsensical, critical thinking skills. And again, fortunately, I got the chance. I did make calls. I do remember when I went and I said, I want to be a professor, they looked at me and they said, we have professors who have 20 years of experience and 30 years of experience. And why? I said, okay, just let me demo, just let me audition, just so. And if you reject me, you reject me, I guess. And then I kind of, it just started from there, and I got my, I would like to call it a big break. And, I mean, thank God people put their trust in me. I do remember walking on campus with my bag, and I would always be mistaken for a student at times, saying that or thinking that, this is, but that was the fun part of it. And that's where I decided to kind of pursue this, and which I'm still doing. That is when I'm visiting faculty on business school campuses, because you gotta bring that, your kind of corporate exposure that you learn, that you gain, because you work with leadership, to this, to the students. So we do case studies, we do the kind of simulations and everything, which is fine, but that's still not enough. You gotta throw them scenarios. You kind of, you have to explain to them and kind of give them real life business problems that, probably they would take years and years to learn and understand. And that's what I think sets me apart. And it's fun. It's very dynamic and challenging.
I'm just gonna detour a little bit about HR, because you also touched upon the fact that how people look at HR, and it's a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of underrated function in a company, if I can put it that way. And
You're being very kind. Thank you.
I mean, people take them for granted, to say the least, right?
Yes.
So, oh, HR, what's the big deal? But you said you got an opportunity to kind of be the founding member of new business units as an HR. Now, what is the difference that you experienced, and how did that kind of change the entire HR perspective for you, being in a part of a big team, and then suddenly moving on to lead a new business unit or a new business event?
So there was a massive difference, and I'll just kind of give you two polar opposite examples here. Say you join a company where processes are set or stable, and then your job kind of becomes to settle in, to blend in, and then take new initiatives, and that's typically how your career pathing is going to look like. And that is mostly what happens with for most of us. Where I'm coming from is, so this is how I was conditioned to work and think, where I was always working till that point in time. Now that we were thrown into a brand new business unit, and we were supposed to birth it, as in we literally had the manpower plan in front of us, where we saw the positions being decided. And that was, so the brainstorming part of it, the economics part of it, the science part of it, that on what basis, and the manpower planning, and from a business perspective. And then of course you kind of go around putting a team. So then you actually sit in those interviews, you scout around for people. Now comes the more interesting part, where you are You are getting a chance to establish the culture. So we hear this so many times. I'm sure you'll agree that the culture is not that great. I'm not
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
settle into the
Every
culture.
single time.
And the best part is, or rather, no, I'm sorry, the saddest part is who gets blamed for this? HR. All right, where again I was under, and this is where my thinking got completely shaken up. That it's the leaders, it's the people leaders who eventually how they will behave, they're going to be setting the tone for it. And this was such an epiphany that I was like, why do we need to work on all the employees? Why do we need, this is just obviously through practices what I've honed and learned, that
Right.
we kind of, so we do employee engagement. Think about it, my god, HR does activities and fun Fridays and everything. They don't get really that much appreciated because people are in their work, they are suddenly pulled out. It is fun, no doubt. Rather than that, why can't we focus on the people leaders, understand their problems, solve their queries, solve their business related, if possible, the bottlenecks wherever we can, make processes simple, make processes efficient for them to have a good time, for them to kind of smoothly sail, and kind of also keep tapping them on their shoulder, reminding them, hey, you have a people agenda. Hey, you gotta take care of your team. You gotta motivate them. You have to be responsible, or think about attrition. Okay. And then all these things started, and that kind of just took off, and that is what I brought to my next company, to my next, when I finally left full-time HR as last HR head. And this is now what I bring to my classrooms as well, where I kind of keep challenging my students, that so you're presenting a thought to me, you're presenting a concept to me, what would the CEO say? What would the outcome be? How would you measure the success in this case? So that kind of thing. And then so that is a very different kind of setup and working style which you develop when you start something from scratch. And then of course, like right now I'm working with EdTech companies because I'm more into education, as you rightly pointed out. All of them are startups. So in one word, chaos. You can call it dynamic, you can call it exciting, you can call it whatever. I would always say it's the birth of the universe, big bang. This is what it is. It is, everything is colliding with each other. Oh my god. And then through this, how do you, so again, processes, systems, you just should have hierarchies, you should have a clear communication, so you just set your pyramids in place for now. Automatically a culture will get built around it. This again, I will credit my entire this mindset to that time where the entrepreneurial kind of thing, because we were taught that you own it, don't think that you're a mere employee, think beyond 9 to 5. And oh my god, did we think beyond 9 to 5, because we were pretty much working 6 days a week, 12 hours and everything. But that's where you really get to know the grind so much better. And then of course, so I did manage to break a few stereotypes down the way. It was so much fun, kind of, going with the business, and, kind of this thing that, hey, HR is not that. We are just so much different for these reasons, and actually proving it, not just saying it, of course. So yeah, exciting times.
Great stuff, Amit. And you said that, you started teaching in B schools while you were still, doing your HR job. And you said, you got a big break. Can you break down into how you got that big break? Now, you said, you picked up calls, made cold calls and stuff like that. I'd like to, make it a little more actionable for my listeners, especially who are looking for a transition, or, who would like to teach during the weekends. So if I have to start off with my first question, and then you can probably take lead from there. You said you cold called, right? Now, there are so many websites and stuff like that, but who's the right person to reach to? What is that first, the pitch that you have? What is the kind of conversation that you build? And you said it's important to get a foot in the door first, and then maybe get in and stuff. If you can walk through all these things in detail, that'll be great. Amit. Your experience,
Sure.
basically.
Sure. So I get this. I get asked this a lot also, actually, because people are like, fine, you did it and all of that, but now tell us, how do we actually do it? So so I'll kind of again speak from experience here, and a very
Right.
practical kind of way of doing things here. So first of all is the power of networking. You got a network to work, which is, I think, pretty old and kind of an adage. So again, you now, how do you do this? So you got to have some discipline inside of you. You have to research, you have to go online. And online, of course, has worked, and now it's like it's all pervasive. So let's just take the example of LinkedIn. Okay, oh my god, LinkedIn is just so amazing, it's just perfect. Okay, so what do you need to do is, first of all, you need to write down your own interests. because you have to be clear, what do you want? And see, that's the thing where some of us are still, and it's completely okay not to know that at the moment. It's completely okay. But then you got to keep fine tuning, you got to keep funneling, you got to keep brainstorming, keep writing it down. So once you're clear in terms of, what is it that you wish to pursue, what is it that you wish to, so again, it could be teaching, it could be working, it could be freelancing, or whatever. Literally, LinkedIn gives you such powerful filters and kind of options to search in terms of companies, in terms of people, in terms of concepts, in terms of groups, etc. And then you start connecting, you start reaching out. Again, you do know that there is the option of mailing, of in mailing. Again, it almost seems like I'm promoting LinkedIn right now, but I think that it's just something that everybody should leverage. I don't know why are people not leveraging it already if they're not. All right. And that's how you just kind of start to connect. Now, again, it will not work out immediately. It could not, depends. All right. But nonetheless, you are getting to know about it. Now, again, more important things is most of the companies have a LinkedIn page. They have contact details. They have addresses. So maybe if it's close to you, visit them. Maybe if it's in your city, call them. Okay. And if it's like somewhere else, email them. But do this consistently. Now, very interestingly, is how do you present yourself? All right. So now this is again a very important thing that is called as personal branding, and on which I've conducted kind of a lot of workshops, and it's been actually amazing and learning experience for me as well. You have to, and of course, personal branding is all about promoting yourself, branding yourself, and selling yourself. Now comes the adaptability part as well, because the job description will somewhere be not as what you had exactly expected to be. It's like, when you're going to buy clothes and, you just kind of, you buy the best fitting, best looking, but you may have thought of something else because, whatever reasons, right? So you tweak your offering to match that. This could be your resume, this could be your cover letter if you're choosing to have a cover, this could just be the body of the email that you're writing to kind of highlight that portion of yourself as compared to the other. This creates a very, very big impact. And now, I mean, with chat gpt and AI based so many technologies and tools, it's really not so much as thinking required, which probably, well, we had to do 5 years back, because it's a matter of kind of getting it, and you can customize your own offering, your own kind of matching to what it is as per, you can just, it's just a click away. But all that also, if done correctly, and if done, no, not even correct, consistently, it is bound to yield results. And I kind of, so to the naysayers, in case there are some and who want to say it's not worked, I don't buy it. So say you get rejected. Again, coming from experience, okay. Say you get a no, and you keep getting no, no, no. Go back, ask, may I know why? Would you like to please give me feedback for me to improve? Was it a position mismatch? Was it my experience was not relevant? Was it I had less experience, more experience? Was I overqualified? Was I
Right.
overpaid? Was whatever? This will throw a lot of insight, because this is a learning journey for ourselves, and other things will just follow and fall in place. So, yeah.
Got it, Amit. Thank you so much. And you said at one point you kind of transition into full time freelancing, and then you had two divisions in which you teach and then you train in the corporate side. Now, why? What was the driving factor behind you transitioning into freelancing full time?
So I always, like I said, I was doing my full time job from Mondays to Fridays, and I was kind of doing this on the side on Saturdays and Sundays, and then of course my Saturdays and Sundays were suddenly starting to look like wholesome and like heavy duty. So I remember once on Sunday night, I was like, oh man, do I need to like start? I was living like two lives, two parallel lives altogether, which probably you can do in a game or something. But
Right.
also, I realized that what I did on Saturdays and Sundays, my weekends, actually fueled me, excited me, drove me to manage the rest of my week. So that was one very important thing, which led me to finally, choose this. So, going back to the poem, Road Not Taken, and you decide to take this road and not that road, and that kind of this thing. So I always knew teaching has to be it. I always knew. And, thankfully, and, I was fortunate enough because offers were coming in, there were more people wanting to collaborate, and kind of, why don't you take this up, why don't you step into this and everything, and those kind of things. So I did know that, okay, I maybe I'll make it, so I mean, after doing a thorough analysis, of course you can never be 100% sure, or rather, no, you cannot have 100% guarantee, right, at the end of it. So that's where the transition is something that I decided to jump out of. And I was very clear that I would not want to be idly, prefer to be, in one place only, because I'll tell you, so we all know SWOT analysis, we all have done
Yeah.
that in some point in our lives of our own selves. And I love to, because, and we teach that and we do that. uh, the biggest threat that I personally see for myself, by my own self, is monotony. And that is just, oh my god, I mean, so I was also very clear that I needed variety. I needed to be doing or experimenting, or something that falls into place. And this is again, I guess, coming from my career, where I had anything but a regular HR corporate experience, because I was always oscillating and kind of penduluming from here to there, and to challenges, and other kind of different things. And that's why I guess freelancing kind of, yes, it is taking a risk, but it's taking a chance on yourself, and it really teaches you a lot of things. And again, so to all the people who are overthinking this, if there anybody who is not sure, think about it. You could always get into it, see how it goes, and if it doesn't, come back. But at least you would have tried and failed, rather than not having tried at all. And it will work out, because you just need to be, but you need to be networking, you need to be growing your brand, you need to be working on yourself. That again is consistency.
Great stuff, Amit. Got it. And you were doing predominantly management related teaching and training for a long time, right? And what was
Right,
your
right.
first experiencing foraying into the academic aspect of teaching?
So, like I said, I was very young, and when I just stepped into it, and I remember, entering a classroom full of, the suited and the booted, the kind of the your B school graduates, and they're eager, and they're kind of sitting there with their laptops, all suave, all smart, and I am there. And again, this was the fun part, because I was teaching a business class. I was teaching a
Right.
general, kind of this thing, where the students of mixed specialization sat together. So I had finance, I had marketing, I had HR, and here I was a professor for human resources. Now here also, my background and the notions helped me, because I knew how they would be perceiving as HR to be. Okay, great, one more session of HR. And I opened, and because this is very a landmark thing in my life also, so I opened with the slide, with just a question. Write down one word that you think about HR. And I was not expecting something really great, because again, a lot of them are freshers, a lot of them did not know much about it. So I said, if you don't know anything, don't write anything. That's completely okay. Just make a smiley face. But and it's anonymous. So write on a piece of paper and pass it along, or just read it out, and no names need to be taken, but write down one word. And we just took it from there, because oh my god, the angst that came out, the kind of misconceptions that came out. And then my presentation was also made in such a manner as to kind of bust those myths. And then of course, we kind of took it from there. So academic teaching has been, in terms of the business school teaching, has been just so enriching. And personally, I've been learning and growing. And what we've also seen is the whole generation changing, right? I mean, you had,
Right.
so the mindset has been changing. The pre-COVID, during COVID, and the post-COVID, the kind of students' attitudes have been changing, their demands have been changing, and it's just been so much more dynamic now. And yeah, very, very exciting. So I mean, teachers, the biggest challenge always will be to establish that connect, to engage, to bond with the students, and at the same time stay on point, stay relevant. So keep questioning yourself. Are you covering something that probably could be, I wouldn't say ancient, because a lot of our syllabi, let's face it, are, kind of, well, they're set in stone. But then how do you bring the new, brand new flavor, the new normal kind of things to that? And that's, I think, very, very exciting.
Got it. Got it, Amit. And you know, there's also a lot of test prep training that you do, right? So how is that different from this? And I want to combine this question with the time when we had the lockdown. You said it was the online teaching wasn't in vogue, it was just classroom training. As a teacher, what was your transition like? Were you kind of familiar with online teaching? Because in the start you spoke a lot about a teacher being with fans and without fans, and you definitely come across someone like, who's got a flair for teaching and, standing in front of a crowd and talking and influencing and stuff. So how did the offline to online transition affect you as a teacher? No problem.
Sorry. Okay, so I'll take it like in two parts here, where when I
Right.
transitioned from offline to online teaching, that was during the peak of the lockdown and
COVID.
the COVID that struck the
Right.
whole world. I had no clue in life about online teaching. Okay, I'm gonna be
Right.
candid about it. I was terrified by the thought, but once again, I knew one thing, that you have to be like a swan. I'm giving this analogy for a reason. Please hear me out. You have to be graceful from above the water, not show your fears. Underneath, you paddle for your life and you stay afloat and you do whatever it takes. Okay, and this has really helped me. This did help me. So I remember when I knew there's online happening everywhere. The students are studying from home, learning from home, and if you can't adapt, you can't adjust, you can't upgrade, you can't help it. You're just like, you're out. So this was where things got exciting, because I put together a plan of action, and so I had to change my pitch. I had to change my offering, right? When I'm making calls or I'm approaching people.
Right.
And I remember that, so I created a demo video. It was a crude video. Okay. It was something that was probably, you would expect from a kid who's using a, kind of a thing, because I was not as savvy. I was definitely not as skilled at that time. But all right, so I gave my whatever that I could to kind of delivering the content and kind of trying to engage through the window and through the screen. So trust and faith, but backed by content, of course. It worked. So I did get a call back, and they offered me this. Then they said that, now what do you have, your the kind of technical specifications. And I got thinking, I said, oh no, I would probably have like a watered down version of all of them. So yes, I did go around putting together the infrastructure and everything. I still remember the first day they sent me. So you're online now, right? You're working for a company that probably is not in your city and it's far away. So you are self-training, you are self-onboarding, you're self-joining, and you're kind of getting into the classroom all on your own. They sent me
Right.
this this thing to write on, because as a teacher you kind of got to annotate and draw, and so you need to have a kind of a device connected to your system, which you use to draw with a stylus, correct? Now that was brand new to me. I said, okay, I'm going to try and do it. I remember I could not get the stylus to work to save my life. As in, it just kept going off. All right. I practiced and I practiced. And before I knew, I had to enter the classroom. And so I entered the classroom. Now this is my foray into formally teaching online. All right. And suddenly I get bombarded, okay, because 500 students log in. The chat starts going at the speed of light. I am in one corner, my content is flashing on another. I have to control that thing. And now you get perspective. You take a step back and immediately start thinking. So this is what I also like to call warrior mode. All right, because you can see attack one, attack two, attack three, and then you kind of prioritize. What do you need to do? You need to teach who? The 500 kids. You got to engage. You got to be productive. You got to bring your A game. And at the end of the day, let's maximize everything that we have in place. All right. And that's it. This was the kind of thought that kind of propelled me, self-motivated me, helped me somewhere, allay my fears. And then, of course, I just took it from there. So this was the very start of it. But this is where,
Right.
and after this, I would like to continue with this, where personal branding kicked in. Because now the challenge was, see, a good brand is not something that is just nice, that is just, good quality and expensive. Of course, that is one of the major highlights of it. And, good to feel, good to hold, long lasting, etc. A good brand is something that delivers consistently all the time. And I just made it my mission that every session that I take, I have to get a good rating, because teacher ratings, session ratings are your yardsticks of, kind of for your performance. And are the
Right.
students bonding with you, connecting with you, and, metrics. Let's have no two ways about it. When it cannot be subjective and, kind of perceptive, let it have data, and let data speak for itself. And that's it. I think from day one, week one, my entire endeavor was to ensure that we are engaging and bonding at the same time, that is getting translated into my data points. And I guess that worked wonders, because it was 3 months after I started, and I was one of the topmost rated teachers in my organization that time. That was Vedantu. What a fantastic journey. I moved out like 9 months ago. I do still keep in touch with them, and it was absolutely amazing. And yeah, so, and this is where you also kind of establish this trust on you. So they say everybody's replaceable and all of that, which is completely okay. But can you try? Can you make yourself so strong, so hard to move or shake, that kind of a thing, by consistently hitting the bullseye? You can. And if not the
Right.
bullseye, around it, as long as you're in the inner circle, that's what I think you need to bring to the table. And that's what worked in my favor.
What I notice here is, even when you got out of your full-time job and you got into freelancing, you've associated yourself with organizations, right? Now, there are two routes that people can take. One is this, establish their own business independent setup, or, associate with bigger companies. Now, have you tried going independent, or do you have an independent setup in place when it comes to test prep or other kind of tutoring?
Okay, so I have been asked this, again, that why don't you just branch out on your own? I would love to, but probably this would fall under my long-term goals. So,
Right.
it's on the horizon. It's not right now because, again, I have a lot of commitments. I do have a lot of responsibilities. It's going well, and I would still kind of want to put it as I'm still in my learning stage, where I would still want to kind of, learn, because we've just witnessed 3 years of absolute bedlam. Let's face it. We've been through, like, oh my God, the worst, right? Ever since
Right.
the World War times. And we've also come out none the, obviously wiser, but still, we have a lot of things to kind of, so taking both the examples of the teaching part and the organizations part. And so let's just take the very basic example of, say, hybrid work. So there is such an interesting debate that we simulate in our classrooms, that what is better, work from home, work from office, or hybrid? Of course, the safest and the most diplomatic answer is hybrid. Then come a sort of so many more new challenges. How do you engage a hybrid workforce? How do you deal with people who are there in the office versus those who are not there? Is it unfair because of distance, and then other kind of things? So I would still want to kind of hold that, the whole going independent on your own. Although I've also been, in fact, offered partnerships, that why don't we start something together? And I have just told the person, please just let's just like hang in there, give me some more time, I'll come back to you, and then of course, down the road we shall. But as of now, this is what I'm having a lot of fun at, and also I'm kind of learning and picking up a lot of interesting things.
Got it, Amit. So, as of now, how many organizations have you associated yourself at any given point in time simultaneously?
So obviously my LinkedIn does show that the entire kind of, list of, so as I said, I'm a full-time freelancer. So I would be visiting faculty at different campuses, depending on the projects and assignments that I get. I would be, teaching my MBA prep and the MBA coaching bit of it. And then of course the other bit as well. Then again, the corporate trainings that I do, this happened purely by accident. It was not in my radar. Although I did have my certifications, because I am a certified train the trainer already. But and again, I never thought, so this was purely a meeting over coffee, where you're discussing economics of India, and suddenly I get offered that, we have a training coming up. Why don't you consider if you would like to? And guess what? Guess what? The training title that I am, kind of. So I said, yeah, I don't mind. Let's kind of, this again. Let's see how it goes. Why not? And everything was labor laws.
Right.
I remember sinking into my chair, and I was like, oh my God. Just, I mean, so look at my personality. I mean, by now, if you have, I am so full of life. I love to be, all excited and, generally all high up on energy. And here I am supposed to be training a whole one day 8 hours on labor laws. So imagine me taking you through acts and sub acts and laws and the jargon and everything. And so that was the fun part, because now I got home. After I got home, I was like, wow, what do I do to make this engaging? And that's when it galvanized into a whole thing, where I made it, into, rather than focusing on the laws part, let's make it practical. How will that employee, that leader, actually deal with it, on a day-to-day basis? A lot of it is kind of irrelevant, because it's just good to have. You don't need to have it. And kind of giving them the sources that if you need, this is your ready reckoner there, and all of that, and then making it experiential. Because you just can't keep sitting and watching and kind of reading. You gotta appeal to the kinesthetic learner inside of you, the auditory learner inside of you, and kind of take it from there. And then, of course, there was no looking back from there, because then, why don't you now consider this, why don't you take up that? But yeah, labor laws was the turning point, and I would always give it credit.
Right. I think, and this was face to face, in person, or was it online?
Both. It was both, because of course this has been in the past 1 year, where everything has now opened up. And now the interesting part is, so see, that's the thing, because when COVID struck, a lot of teachers transitioned to online, and they did a great job. Some were not able to do it, and that's where also I used to hold workshops and all to sensitize them, and to kind of train them, and also kind of, how can you do it, how can you actually leverage it? Then the online thing boomed so much that it then kind of now started going down as well, because you do have offline, and now students want to come and study from you in person. Companies want to be trained in person in the classroom, where you can have the games, the activities, the kind of simulations that you would want to do. So now the challenge came, that how is it that you change, or kind of have an alternative site offering of the same kind of training in an offline and an online mode, to appeal to both the kinds of audiences. So this has been super fascinating and super interesting as well. So when I spoke about the labor laws training, which to kind of quote that, and this was off face to face, and we had a good time, and we did it well, and the ratings would turn out to be good. Client was very, very satisfied. All awesome. 3 months later, the same client comes back and says, "Hey, what you trained were the Mumbai people, my city people. Now I would like you to take it up online for Pan India, because obviously all of them can't be flown down to Mumbai. This has to be done
Right.
online for 8.5 hours." I said, "Oh my God, like, can it just get more tougher than this, by the way?" So now I had to tweak and customize that entire offline thing, and a subject as heavy as that, into online, with the same amount of engagement and dynamicism, and being a catalyst and everything. So that is something that we are currently witnessing, and it's an exciting time and exciting.
I've got two questions, but I'll just touch upon this one first because it's just popping. There was also this whole topic about moonlighting that was going on. Did that surface up during these workshops that you did? And what did you have to
So
say if it did come up?
it's controversial, definitely. I think in India we've seen it swing a lot of sides, and kind of it still is. And yeah, it is kind of a gray area for sure. And of course, it started with, as we know, with the Wipro case, and the way that things see, it's always been there abroad. It's just that ever since the lockdown, and IT industry primarily got majorly hit by this, and everything it's come out. I
Right,
think my stand on this remains very clear: is you have to obey the law of the land. And by that land, I also mean your company and your organization that you deal with, and everything. Now,
right,
again, I chose to be a full-time freelancer, so I can kind of be on the outside of this. So I don't have to be, applicable or eligible into this. But at the same
right,
time, I think what plays here most importantly is transparency. So, you have to declare, you have to be open, you have to be honest with all your, and of course, there can't be any sort of conflict of interest, because, well, then that is just not, kind of this thing. So I do
yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember, so to when I was transitioning from Vedantu to Physicswala, where I currently am associated with, from the MBA prep, that is MBA wala. So now at Vedantu, my previous company, I was handling a lot of things. So to replace me would obviously take time, and my next company wanted me very urgently on board, because of the time constraint, because the exam for which I was getting on board was happening in a month's time. Now that's kind of putting both the companies in a precarious situation here, and I would not want to be unfair to either of them. And
Right,
it did a point did come where, so both of them operate online, operate YouTube channels, which are very famous, have a massive following, and they have one common thing, me. So now I had to, I had to take special permission in the spirit of transparency, in the spirit of, kind of openness, but also thankfully there was no conflict of interest, because there it was separate categories of students, of of the grade, of the subject, and here it was kind of very different. But yeah, it was a very tense 1 or 2 weeks for me, where I was, simultaneously appearing on both of them. But well, and it was, oh, my students had a blast, because they would go there and watch me and comment. They would come here and watch me and comment, and they would say like, "What are you doing?" So I said, just let it be. So, but yeah, I mean, we do have this debate very frequently in the classrooms. It is difficult, because how do you define a policy of moonlighting? Who do you include, who do you not include? What do you do if found guilty, and how do you determine guilty? And there are just so many nuances to it, and that is the reason why I don't think we've been able to formalize it. And we're still kind of working about it, and that's why companies have chosen to be take it at their discretion. But yeah, so the debate actively kind of rages on. So it's yeah, I'm also a part of it, so let's see how it goes.
Got it, Amit. Cool. And talking about, online training for the corporate people, I spoke to a bunch of them, and, one of the common problems that trainers face is, sometimes you don't have any control over the participants switching on or off their video, right? And you have no idea how well it's received. How do you tackle this whole thing? I mean, do you have any rules, or how do you get your participants to have their videos on? You can't force them. How's that whole thing handled by you?
So that's actually a very practical problem that I think all my fellow teachers, trainers, 100% in an online setup will always face. There are two ways to tackle it here. First of all, you have to have a very clear sense of understanding. So I'll give a very basic example, that say if a student or a so not a student, it's a training, right? So you're training employees, adults. If the adult is switching off the camera is off, okay? And is it for what duration? Is it, now again, you have to dive, deep dive here. That, is it for a genuine reason? Is it because of connectivity issues? Is it because of the data issues or something like that? And then gauge and evaluate if the participant is participating or not. Is the participant contributing in spite of the camera being off? So I'll tell you where I'm coming from is, more often than not, I get a lot of cases who kind of participate, give their inputs, but they don't want to switch the camera on for whatever joy and whatever reason. That's also not mandatory, unless and until the organization chooses to make it mandatory. But I, as a trainer who would kind of want to engage and bond, and at the same time ensure that learning is happening, I would like to leverage not this part only, because I know camera is very very important, but there are other things. There are polls, there are chats, there are prompts, there are activities, and as long as I'm getting back what I'm giving, in terms of energy level, in terms of contribution, in terms of feedback, I think it's really it's not a deal breaker for me, and it shouldn't be. But yes, of course, the telltale signs that if a camera is off and the mic is muted and the participant is not interested or bothered, then you gotta raise the alarms, and kind of you gotta go back and check, and then so be in both the situations, of course, and then, well, at the end of the day, see, because somewhere that's what online did, right? It sort of gave or transferred the power into the hands of the learner, wherein offline you don't have that liberty. You're supposed to sit
Right.
and just be there. You can't really do your thing of chewing, eating, walking, doing whatever, right? So that is something that we have to be sensitive about, and to be aware about. Of course we are. But then, that being said, I think you should be able to involve and engage in other ways possible if the camera thing is bothering you, or is it, if it's being an issue.
You said, at one point you were simultaneously appearing on the YouTube channels of two organizations. Do you have a YouTube channel of your own?
So I am not permitted to, actually. I
Right.
did have briefly, and once again, coming back from the point of view of moonlighting, I don't think it will be kind of what can I say, ethical or, correct on my part. Because then once again, it's just that the you may or may not post something that could be harmful, or I don't know, kind of a problematic case for us. From that
Right.
standpoint, I think it just makes complete sense and perfect sense. I do harness and leverage the power of social media. That is very, very important. Because when I spoke about personal branding, how is it that you showcase yourself, right? So online and, social media is something that is all pervasive and everything. So I do keep myself very, very active and engaged and very well connected on Telegram. Oh my God, Telegram is absolutely amazing. I think if you've not yet used it, you should, at least in the education industry. It's very
Right.
convenient. It guarantees privacy, because to some extent, to a better extent than WhatsApp any day, because you don't have to give out your number. All right. So it's better than that. It's better suited, of course. It does have its own kind of cons as well. And then there's Instagram. So, we do know that TikTok is banned in our countries. We can't do anything about it. My only point is, you have to understand where your customers are. So where your clients are, where your students are. So wherever that they are you present there to make yourself be known, make yourself, kind of, so this is also how you kind of reach out, where you engage, you really kind of get to connect. And then of course there's YouTube. So I like to call these, like, the trio, or, the trident of, I want to say, Aquaman, because I'm a huge fan. So, so I will kind of, and I've always passed on this, to all my listeners and learners and everyone, that leverage YouTube. But on YouTube, you're teaching, you're being serious, you're delivering content. Then post that, for the after party. Come to Instagram, all right, where you show a personal side of yourself, and, you kind of reinforce, and, you kind of really bond. You show your interest, you show your versatility, all right. And of course, on Telegram, as a constant source of updates. So in this entire thing, what you're creating is an ecosystem of yourself. That
Right.
becomes very, very powerful. That will kind of propel you forward a lot of times, so, multiple times, which will definitely work in your favor.
And finally, right now you're with Physicswala. So how did that happen? And how has it been so far?
Here again, I would like to circle back to the earlier discussion on LinkedIn. So it happened through LinkedIn. And that is where I always, always say that, so in India, I'll tell you, because, we've always over leveraged, or we have been overly dependent on Naukri.com. That is the
Right.
job portal site. And that is just like, or a typical job portal, the other kind of job sites. LinkedIn now has been so evolving and galvanic and everything into this. So personally, I would always be there. I would log in every day, just, browse through, scroll through, post, comment, etc., etc., and also showcase myself, or highlight my achievements, or just kind of give an update as to what is up with me, what am I doing, are my students doing well, what kind of results, because for a teacher that also speaks volumes in terms of, are you producing results. And it just, so once I was driving, and I get a call saying that, we would like to, kind of have an interview with you. I said, I'm not looking out. I'm kind of very happy where I am, and I don't want to, because, I mean, so you had just come out of COVID, that time, and you just like, now that it's settled down, let it continue. And I was getting the kind of love and support that I wanted, and the validation and everything, gratification. They said, okay, just talk to us. What's the harm? What is the worst thing that can happen? And I remember even our times were not matching. Oh my God, it was just that I gave them a window, and they very graciously agreed to that window, and they said, fine, no worries at all. And that's that. It's just that, it was just a conversation. It was the whole kind of the freedom, and they allowed me to, like, work from home, and they gave me the flexibility. And the kind of, the whole thing was coming back to my MBA market, coming back to my, my core that I had left just pre-COVID, so that was a major, major pull. And of course, that being said, the company is absolutely amazing. It's doing very well. I believe in the mission and the vision, and it's just something that I think we're doing a good job about it, and that's just absolutely great. So I have a very dynamic team with me, and, every day is a new challenge. Once again, the word better will be chaos, but you get to learn and, kind of grow with that. So that itself has been absolutely amazing, and then really looking forward. So this year we are gearing up for CAT. So I just want to kind of quote this morning news that broke. Every year
Hmm.
there have been around 2.2 to 2.6 lakh aspirants who appear for the CAT exam in India.
Right.
This year, there have been 3.3 lakh aspirants who have signed up for CAT. That is a huge, huge jump. We've never seen so many. So this again now, kind of speaks volumes about how the market is expanding, more opportunities, more growth, more, kind of mountains to conquer and that kind of a thing. So it's definitely a very exciting space to be in. So looking forward to grow, I guess.
Got it, Amit. And one final topic I'd like to touch upon, you're not permitted to have your own YouTube channel, and you are obviously good. That's why others want you on their YouTube channel. Have you ever sat down and wondered, okay, what it could be if you kind of started to have your YouTube channel from now up until the point, when you decide to kind of start your own stuff, what would have happened? Those thoughts, do they cross your mind? How do you deal with them? FOMO, if I have to tell it in one word.
So almost every day, because so it's just like you're in an industry where you have peers, you have your role models, you have people to look up to, and and it's all there, right? Social media, it's all just bombarding you constantly. And then of course you kind of see some teachers absolutely killing it, and just kind of 1 million subscribers and everything, and doing so well on both on Instagram and on YouTube and as well everything. So yes, this thought probably crosses my mind, I guess, almost every day. What if I were to, and how would it happen, and what would this how would it shape up? But once again, I'll tell you, why has it not been so discouraging, or the FOMO part, as you mentioned, for me? Because here also we launched a brand new channel with zero, right? And then we watched it grow, and we are currently among the top three in the company, where we've grown from zero to that. And mind you, we have some amazing channels, because we've always been into the JEE for the IITs, and the needs for the
Right.
medical medicine, those entrances, and massive fan following, UPSC for that matter, which is a government exam for civil services. And we've managed to crack all of that and kind of become in that league, which we have set up. So it's again sort of being entrepreneurial here, in spite of being with a corporate, where you've done your thing and you've got credit for it, and you've actually, so the gratification part. So far, there is, what can I say, my this is where I'm getting my satisfaction from. But in the
Right.
horizon, yes, I would definitely, so I would definitely branch out, and I would like to kind of do it on my own. But then I would like to be wiser and kind of more experienced and everything, and then we will see.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to have you on the podcast when you branch out and, probably when you kind of start executing your dreams on your own. That'll
Sure,
be
will be.
doubly more interesting, is what I think. So, yeah, all the very best to you.
So much.
And good luck in whatever you choose to do. It's been a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. It's been absolutely amazing fun talking to you, and thank you so much for being asked on such amazing things, and going down the memory lane, and kind of remembering those days of how I grew and I've reached here, and a lot of exciting things to come, I guess, yet just getting started. So thank you so much, and please take care.
Thank you, Amit. It's my pleasure.